She was a widow fighting to keep her husband's dream alive. But when the HOA tried to silence her, she exposed a truth that shook the entire community. Family, before we dive into this powerful story, I need you to stop right now and subscribe to Wealth and Wounds. These stories matter because they reveal the hidden battles that too many are forced to fight alone. By subscribing, you become part of a community that stands for truth, justice, and courage. Don't just watch, be part of the movement. Her name was Evelyn Carter, a 42-year-old widow in Willow Creek Estates, a neighborhood where the manicured lawns were as polished as the people who ran the local homeowners association, HOA. When her husband passed away, Evelyn inherited his small office building, a modest brick space where he once ran his accounting firm. After months of grief, Evelyn decided to keep the office alive, renting out rooms to small businesses, mostly other Black entrepreneurs trying to make their mark. It wasn't flashy, but it gave Evelyn strength, a legacy, a way to keep her husband's dream alive. But the HOA had other plans. It started with letters. Your signage does not comply with neighborhood aesthetic standards. Parking lot maintenance appears substandard. The tenants are not in alignment with Willow Creek's community values. At first, Evelyn thought it was a mistake. She wrote back politely, explained that her office was up to code, even showed receipts of repairs. But the letters didn't stop. They escalated. Now they demanded excessive noise fines when clients visited, unauthorized gatherings when tenants held meetings. And then, the most chilling line of all, the HOA reserves the right to review whether this property is appropriate for Willow Creek. Evelyn noticed the stares. Neighbors who once waved now crossed the street. At HOA meetings, when she stood to speak, her words were cut off. The HOA president, Richard Whitmore, a tall man with slicked-back silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes, always found a way to silence her. "Mrs. Carter, we appreciate your input, but let's move on. Mrs. Carter, your time is up. Mrs. Carter, this isn't personal. It's just community standards." But Evelyn knew the truth. It wasn't about community standards. It was about her. One humid afternoon, Evelyn arrived at the office to find a bright orange sticker plastered across the door. Property in violation, subject to closure. Her tenants stood outside, confused and angry. "Ms. Carter, what does this mean? Can they do this?" Evelyn's chest tightened. She had followed every rule, every guideline, every code. This wasn't about violations. This was about erasing her. At the next HOA meeting, Evelyn refused to sit quietly in the back. She walked straight to the front, orange sticker clutched in her hand, her voice steady but sharp. "You think because I'm a widow, because I'm a Black woman, that I'll fold? That I'll give up the last piece of my husband's legacy?" The room went silent. Richard smirked. "Mrs. Carter, no one is targeting you. You're simply unwilling to abide by the standards that keep Willow Creek the prestigious neighborhood it is." Evelyn stepped closer, her eyes burning into his. "Prestigious for who, Richard? For the families that look like you? Talk like you? Because my tenants, my businesses, my husband's legacy, they followed every single code. The only standard you're enforcing is discrimination." Gasps filled the room. For once, Richard's smirk faltered. Evelyn had prepared for this moment. She reached into her bag and pulled out copies of the letters, the fines, the so-called violations, all baseless, all disproven. And then she dropped the bombshell. "Not only do I have proof that these violations are fabricated, but I also have recordings. Every time you dismissed me at meetings, every time you cut me off, every time you whispered about who you really want in Willow Creek." A murmur swept through the room. Richard's face turned pale. Because Evelyn wasn't lying. She had recordings. She had evidence. And she wasn't afraid anymore. The story spread quickly. Some neighbors stood by Evelyn, ashamed that they had ignored her fight. Others doubled down, siding with Richard, muttering about standards and property values. But Evelyn had cracked the armor. Local reporters caught wind of the story. Small businesses in nearby towns rallied behind her. "If they shut her down, they shut us all down," one business owner said. And for the first time, Evelyn felt momentum. But power never surrenders without a fight. One evening, Evelyn returned to her office to find a window shattered, files scattered, and spray paint splashed across the walls. "Get out." Her tenants panicked. Some considered leaving. Others promised to stand by her. Evelyn broke down in tears that night. But when the sun rose, her resolve was steel. "They can break my windows," she whispered to her husband's photograph. "But they will never break me." At the next meeting, Evelyn arrived not alone, but with reporters, lawyers, and community leaders at her side. Richard tried to gavel the room into silence, but the cameras rolled. "Mrs. Carter, this is a private." "Not anymore," Evelyn said, her voice ringing out. "You try to silence me. You try to erase me. But today the world will see exactly how you treat people who don't fit your mold." And then she played the recordings. Richard's voice, clear as day. "She's not HOA material. Too loud, too different. This community isn't built for people like her." The room erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in on Richard's stunned face. The power had shifted. By the end of the week, Richard was forced to step down as HOA president. The fabricated fines were rescinded. The office reopened, tenants returned, and Evelyn stood taller than ever. For once, it felt like justice had been served. But Evelyn knew the battle wasn't over. One night, as she locked up the office, Evelyn noticed a black SUV idling across the street. The tinted window rolled down just enough for her to see a flash of Richard's face, smirking again. And then, the chilling words carried across the quiet street. "You may have won this round, Evelyn, but you don't know who you're really up against." The SUV sped off, leaving Evelyn frozen on the sidewalk, her heart pounding. Because for the first time, she realized Richard wasn't acting alone. Family, if you're feeling the weight of Evelyn's struggle, then you know how real this fight is. Don't just watch. Be part of this journey. Subscribe to Wealth and Wounds today, because part 2 is about to uncover just how deep this corruption really goes.